That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
We got, if you're watching, folks, we got somebody over here sitting here dancing to the intro music. We're going to have some fun this afternoon. We've got a couple great guests lined up. We might have one more joining us if those storms pass down there in Florida area. But real quick, before we get cracking with this week's episode, we need to thank those who support this show so much, and that's OneCast Fishing. Head on over to onecastfishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Get your hands on all the weedless Neds, soft plastics, long neck hooks, and finally those jigs that Ben's holding in his hand. Join the snagless revolution. Texas rig your soft plastic on the back of those jigs. Catch more fish, lose less tackle. Also, while you're online, use that link we provide you to go to Hobie Eyewear. It's going to take you right to the site. You're going to order the eyewear that you want. They got different frames and different lens options. We love the floating frame series. Never lose another pair of sunglasses in the water again. Check out those Mojo Float 2.0s. They're my favorite. They got anti-fogging vents in the top of them. Everybody knows how frustrating it is when your sunglasses fog up on you, and they help out a lot with that. Plus, they float, like I said. Hey, before your next fishing trip, make sure you head on over and see our good friends at Deep Dive on your app store. Go to your Play Store, App Store, download the Deep Dive app. Pay for the annual subscription. It's like $80 a year. They got tons of different features on there. You're seeing a lot of anglers across the board promote Deep Dive, and there's a reason for that. The features on there really help you understand things that we're going to talk about today in this episode, such as wind direction, inflows, outflows, water levels, and all the weather that typically ends up smashing us at the end of the day in these dog days of summer with storms and stuff like that. So make sure you check out Deep Dive and all their features that they have. Download that bad boy. Moving to Central North Carolina, you're going to need a good real estate agent. We call him Uncle Terry for a reason. He's a bass fisherman. He serves the Central North Carolina region with Howard, Perry, Walston, and Caldwell Banker, and he is going to get you into the home of your dreams. You can reach him at carpentert@hpw.com and let him know exactly what you're looking for. Trust me, he'll make sure that bass boat fits in the garage properly. Then finally, our boys up in Indianapolis, Indiana with WAYMIRE Group up there, fourth generation business. They have everything that you need, boat trailer part related. Mikey, you're good friends with them too. They're a great partner of Special Operations Bass Anglers, and then they're a great partner with the show here at the OneCast. We love those guys. So if you guys need anything, and I mean anything boat trailer part related, you need to call 1-800-434-4824, and you're going to get online with a customer service representative. They are a subject matter expert when it comes to boat trailer parts. They're going to get you everything you need, whether or not you need it at your house or you're on the road fishing a national tour or whatever. They're going to send it right to your Airbnb, your hotel room. They'll get you taken care of.
Where'd you see that number?
It's right behind me, but I got it memorized.
Dang.
He said it enough times.
I was
Yeah.
like, man.
Hey, what? I am Goodwill Hunting, boy.
I brought them apples.
Dude, I'm super pumped for tonight's episode. You know, we've been running our gums for the past few weeks. We've had some great guests on. We've had our biologist friends on to talk about, you know, the health of our fisheries and the F1 bass stocking program and what the status is on that. We've had Seth on a couple times within the last few months to kind of go, you know, talk about some national level tournament stuff. And then we've talked about, you know, organically, we just talked about fishing in general. But tonight we got our good friend and brother, Mikey from Special Operations Bass Anglers, Jobs on Tap. I don't know. The list goes on and on. You're the tournament director for your club too, aren't you? Yeah. So Carolina Bassers out of Harnett County. He's the president of the Carolina Bassers Club. Huh?
Tournament
director. I'm sorry. The president's different.
Yeah. I'm not
Sorry,
president.
Mr. Not President.
I got no time.
Yeah. So are you in an appointed or an elected position?
Man, we just volunteer.
Man, we just do stuff.
We do.
So, Mikey.
Chilled out.
And then we got Seth joining us up there in Durham, the Durham area, who's getting ready to leave here and go fish up north for some brown fish. So appreciate you jumping on with us, Seth, and then Ben. But if you look around the room, I'm not saying they're good years, but there's about 80 to 100 years of bass fishing experience in this room, right? some better than others. I would be at the bottom here. But anyways, I wanted to talk to the audience tonight about just the dog days of summer fishing. We're definitely in the middle of it right now. But you know what? Wait, let me back up. Ben, we talked about it before we even started. Are there any major updates in the bass fishing world right now that the audience needs to know about?
Just the NPFL event at where are they at?
St. Lawrence River. St.
Lawrence will be wrapped up by the time you all are listening to this episode. So we'll know the winner then. We'll see what happens. I'm actually anxious to see how that event goes without forward-facing sonar now on the St. Lawrence.
Plus, they got locking issues.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yep. So are they going to be able to get in the lake at all?
Yeah. So this is the first time that this is ever going to happen. The NPFL paid for lock times, so those guys could lock down through the commercial traffic lock. See, with the way the Iroquois Dam's set up, there's a thoroughfare through there where just recreational traffic can come and go. But since the water's so high, it's shut down. So the only way to access the western, I guess, southwestern part of the river to the lake is go through the commercial lock. So they're going to try that. Apparently, it's not a quick process. It's like up to an hour long.
Wow.
And then if you're running south, it's, hour and a half. So it's going to be something to watch over a course of 3 days. I'm interested just to see how it plays out because a lot of these guys have never had to do that before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, in that case, I anticipate a lot of drifting in the river.
Probably.
Over those sandbars with drop shots and stuff. Yep.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, kudos to the NPFL for trying to, adjust fire to that situation, do something a little bit different, maybe get those guys some more access. We'll see how it plays out, though. We've all heard the stories, specifically Apopka. The Apopka lockdown in Florida seems to be the nemesis for a lot of people. Maybe this, hopefully this situation isn't the same, but you never know, man. If they're on a tight timeline and you can't make it back, like your weight don't count, right? So it'll be interesting to see. I do want to ask you guys, though, real quick before we get talking about the dog days of summer, though. Seth, you just got done fishing the NPFL over the last couple of years. Who do you think, you just give me one, give us one, who's going to win the St. Lawrence River for the NPFL?
Who's going to win the St. Lawrence River for the NPFL? Probably Zach Burge.
Oh, I knew you were going to say it.
Man, I'll be honest with you. With no scope,
yeah,
all those guys can catch them, right?
Yeah.
Some of those guys better than others, but Zach's the type of guy that will literally pull up to a place, catch a couple fish, and he's not feeling it or they're not the right ones, and he will run 70 miles the other way and get on them. So yeah. I know how Zach fishes. He's not afraid to put it in the wind and burn fuel, and with the conditions being the way they are, it might be what you have to do. But that's my pick.
Yeah. Mikey, do you follow the NPFL much? No? All right. Well, if you're going to pick somebody in the world to win,
Trey Thompson.
It's definitely not going to. I won't be there. But if I was going to pick somebody, it'd be myself too. No, Ben, do you have an idea of who you think may win this event?
If Seth went with Zach, I'll just go with I'll go with Patrick Walters because kind of the same thing. He's got the experience. He's done well in those fisheries up there before. I think does he have a century belt on St. Lawrence? He might from Bassmaster.
I think he does. I don't
Probably
know.
Does.
He probably
I'm not
does.
going to look it up, but he's might.
Pretty much got every title.
Yeah, so, you're looking at guys with experience, especially with those lock issues, managing fish, and just being able to adapt. So,
yeah,
Zach's a good choice. I'll have to go with Patrick just because he's a hammer, and it's going to be it's going to be different up there.
Yeah, so I think Patrick Walters has the most earnings in the NPFL right now. I think they just published that. But I think second to Patrick was Timmy Reams. Is Timmy Reams still fishing, Seth?
Yeah, he's fishing both the Opens and the NPFL.
All right, I'm going to pick Timmy Reams. We're going to go with Timmy Reams on this one.
Timmy can catch him. He's a shallow guy, but he can catch him.
I wonder if, because Zach fishes the BPT format, which is vastly different than any other tournament circuit out there, I wonder if that really gives him a competitive advantage or not, because, like you said, he's not afraid to pull the trolling motor up and make a really long run. And I'm sure guys do that, and guys definitely do that in a 5-fish format. But with being in the BPT, like if Zach's on 1.7 pound fish consistently, he's got to pull the trolling motor up. He's got to leave. He's got to go find something else, right? He knows that he has to make runs, make adjustments, because he gets that live score tracker update. He gets to hear what the rest of the field is catching. He can't, I don't know, but I wonder if it does give him an advantage to being more adaptable.
Maybe, but you got to remember too, if he's on 10,000 1.7s, it doesn't matter.
It's true.
You know what I mean? They catch every fish. Now, granted, it's all based on what the minimum is set for that body of water that they're fishing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, guys, if you watch it, and I'm a fan of bass fishing, so I watch it all, but a lot of those guys will find those places that are full of those 1.5 pound to 2.25 pound fish, and they'll burn it down because it's easy, for one, for them, and for two, it gives them comfortable enough to go then look for other better quality fish in different places. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're catching 10 5-pounders or 51 pounders. As long as you have that weight, that's all that matters.
True.
Yep. And I lied. I did look it up. Patrick won in 23 with a century belt.
There you go.
Yeah.
Somebody that I really would like to see win, and I know he's won a lot in the past, but I'm a big fan of Andy Morgan, right? He's like a taller version of Greg Hackney, in my opinion, just with his style of fishing, and how good he is flipping a jig and throwing a spinnerbait. I mean, he can do it all, but, he's somebody that I think is a true steward of instinctual bass fishing. And I've been a fan of his, since he fished the FLW tour and stuff. So, but got to give a shout out to, he's one of my best friends, Josh Watkins. Hopefully he can turn this season around up there and go smash them as well. I know it's been rough. I've been seeing a lot. Like you said, Ben, the MPFL is going to be done by the time this is recorded. We all got our picks for that, but also the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit is going on in Champlain at the same time. Am I wrong on that?
No, it is
Champlain. And let me tell you, dude, watching Latimer, Bobby Bakewell, some of these other guys post some of their Instagram reels and stories, it's rough up there. It's super, super rough. Hence the reason I ordered an external bilge pump today with some gator clips on it, because I ain't trying to go upside down in the lake. But yeah, man. So we got all you guys in the room and stuff, and the dog days of summer are upon us. And I wanted to kind of hit you guys with some different questions and stuff. First and foremost, and anybody can jump in, but let's ask Mikey. Mikey's sitting here right now, so we're gonna hit you with the first question. The dog days of summer, in your opinion, you see a lot of people talk about their top 5 baits for the dog days of summer and stuff like that. What is your top 1 bait for the dog days of summer?
Depends on what fishery.
I knew you were going to do that. Well, talk to the audience. So, like, why do you say it depends on the fishery?
Okay, so we just come off of a river.
Yep.
Past 2 tournaments, we're at show on, and they were not touching the top water. I like top water.
Yeah,
I'm a top water fanatic.
I mean, he's holding a buzzbait in his hand right now. He wears that.
You go to the other ones, other like lakes and stuff. Might not be top water.
Yeah.
Shaky head, Carolina rig, deep dive and stuff. Mm-hmm. Or they could be shallow. I know Seth likes to fish shallow too. I'd rather fish shallow all day.
Yeah.
Fish deep. I don't like fishing 20 foot deep because then I got to worry about fish. I got to stick them and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I catch a fish in 2 foot of water. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Throw it in the live well and they're good.
Yep.
But one of the things that we didn't even talk about this the other day. The fish right now up at Roanoke, a lot of them are post spawn. We caught a ton of fish that were post spawn. I actually had one die because it was straight up post spawn. Like
immediately post spawn?
Oh, dude.
Like pretty quickly?
Skinny. I mean, big head.
Mm-hmm.
It still didn't put the weight on yet. And if you remember the Bassmaster, when they were down here, they were talking about catching them on beds.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that fish, I was like, dude, that's a post spawn fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I did everything I could. My live wells had ice in them and everything. gone.
Yeah.
So, but buzzbait up in the rivers is my go-to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you bring up a good point, Mikey, and I'll turn this over to Seth. Like, when we ask a question like, what is your top baits? And, Seth, you do a really good job promoting your one of your sponsors being Strike King, your top 5 bait choices for July or August, whatever. But really, like, when you're in the middle of the dog days of summer like this, you love to go shallow. But if you were to really truly pick like a bait for you in this month of the year, like, what is your 100% go-to bait?
It's going to be some type of topwater. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm along the same lines with Mikey. Here's the deal: if some of the lakes around here were at full pool, it would probably be a frog, right? But right now, with everything being down and a lot of fish suspended out off the bank, and even on the bank, I really love a mock patroller, which is a plopper style bait. Backs in the pockets for bluegill eaters, and then on the main bodies of water, I like a walking bait, like a Strike King KVD Sexy Dog. But it's going to be a topwater because you're just more apt to get a bigger bite and more bites, I think, on topwater this time of year because the fish are so pelagic, they're moving, and they've seen almost every type of soft plastic there is up until this point in the year. And a topwater bait's just something that you can move quickly and get a reaction bite.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree with that. Ben, do you have any takes on the dog days of summer style fishing? Because I'm gonna segue this here after you're done.
I mean, I think Seth is right. Like you get, and I think the dog days set in early for us this year, mainly because it's been so hot and so dry. So the water, a lot of times our lakes will get lower in August, early September, but it's been that way all year. And as that thermocline rises in a lot of our bodies of water, as the fish are pressured, they're beat up, they get a lot more lethargic. And so usually, like you guys covered it, like it depends on your fishery and what the fish are doing and where you're at. But all things being equal, like to me, a jig, I love just dragging on the bottom because a lot of times instead of suspending, sometimes they just lay on the bottom. Just kind of laying there in the mug. And if you bring a big meal past them, I think they're more willing to exert some of that energy to eat a big meal. And with that said, this time of year, starting in August, a lot of times I've had a lot of success over the years doing an old school technique with the jig and worm. So you take a 10-inch worm and put it on a big 3/4 ounce football jig, and you just drag it along. And a lot of times the bites actually won't be very heavy. You'll just kind of feel your line get heavy. It's not that, a lot of times it's not that tap or you really hear a thump. You just kind of suck it in.
Yeah.
And,
Carolina rig bait.
Yeah.
So
like a Carolina rig bite. Yeah. Mikey's right on that. So, and this is why, like, for all the listeners, like when you see a lot of the pros and a lot of social media influencers and stuff talk about their top baits for said month, like understand one, it's relative to the area that they're fishing. It could be relative to, the state they're fishing in, could be relative to the body of water specifically, because we have places like Mikey talked about in North Carolina. You could go 10 minutes away from where we are right now and fish vastly different from what you're going to fish 2.5 hours to the east or 2.5 hours to the west. And so you need to understand that. But that brings me to talking about like breaking down the water. And this is why deep dive is such a great tool, especially for people that are just trying to get an understanding of what may be going on based on the data that they have for you guys in the features. But Mikey, when it comes to, like, you love to throw top water. So talk about whether or not it's the river system or it's a lake and stuff like that. Ben talked about, and Seth talked about, like, really pressured fish, subtle bites and stuff. When you're breaking down a lake, a reservoir, a river, like, what are some of in the month of July and going into August, what are some of the biggest things that you're looking for? Because let me preface this too. Tournament fishing is different than fun fishing, right? Like, I can go out right now, and I know we're about 6 different schools of fish are at. So if I'm going out to fun fish and I just want to catch fish, that's going to change the way that I go and attack a body of water versus if I'm preparing for a competition. So let's talk about on the competition side, because if you're going fun fishing, you just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But if you're going out and you had a tournament, let's say on whatever body of water, talk us through like the way in this month and going into August that you're going to really attack breaking that body of water down.
So river, I'm going to look for current and watercolor. Lakes, current plays a big one. Like Seth was talking about topwater. With a lake, I noticed this a long time ago. Tillery. You go in there, wind current is your biggest thing now. They do have current sometimes during the weekend, but Duke took over and they don't pull current during the weekend anymore. It used to be they did. So now you're looking at wind current. If you don't have a lot of wind current, your topwater bait's going to be smaller. Like a spook, it's got to be like a puppy spook or a popper. If the wind's blowing, buzzbait or a spook. At the river, same thing. If the currents are flowing, the loudest buzzbait you can get, the loudest buzzbait. I don't like spooks because there's so much wood you're working around. When the current dies on the river, a frog, a horny toad, those are the key things I'm looking at.
So when you go, let's use a highland or I don't. Is Tillery considered a highland reservoir? No, it's just a reservoir. All right, so it's a flood control reservoir, though, right? So are you? So like, talk us through like, what are the types of things you're looking for besides current? Are you looking like, do contour lines play a role this time of year for you? Does certain types of grass play a role? Certain type of docks? Like really outside of current and stuff, are you focused on any of that stuff?
Shade. In July, like I've seen on grass lakes, willow grass. If you got shade in July, August, you can throw a frog up in there middle of the day and catch fish.
Yep.
They move to shade. They want shade. The deeper fish, you might want to look at points that drop off real quick. They'll move up there and push shad up there, and they can stay up there all day.
Yep.
They'll stay up there all day and feed. And that's deep water or shade.
Deep water and shade. Yeah, I will tell you, like, and Ben, I'll turn this over to you. Like, so if I'm going to, in this time of year, it takes everything out of me not to go deep immediately, right? But I will tell from what I've seen over the years, and especially now with how much pressure is being put out into the middle of the lakes on the offshore structure, the contour lines being the road beds, the humps, the saddles, everything, and then just straight up middle of the water, do nothing type thing. I feel like a lot of times the bank or the shallow water areas are really being left alone, right? Because anglers, especially if you're going out on a weekend, if they're not tournament anglers, they're just going there to catch fish, and they're going to go to where the majority of the fish are at, right? And majority of the fish relative to where you're fishing, we won't use the river. That's not a good example. Certain rivers in there can be offshore rivers. But if you're going to one of these lakes and you're just going to catch numbers of fish, clearly most of your numbers are going to be out there feeding on bait, right? Feeding on shad, gizzard, threadfin, gizzard, shad, whatever. We're talking largemouth and spots because the north is built different, right? But if you think about it, a lot of the shallow water fish, there's so many resident shallow water fish. Those are the ones, to me, that really end up being some of your biggest fish in the dog days of summer, because the end of July and beginning of August, those fish, they were nice and fresh in May and June, but they have been pounded on. And I'm not saying you can't catch big fish this time of year offshore, because I do it all the time. What I'm saying is, if you want to, I go out and I start eliminating shallow first. It takes everything in my body, but I've been burned so many times on these lakes where if you don't go shallow, you're missing you could be missing a big opportunity. I think Brandon Polinek said it years and years ago. I think he was on this, I think it was on Santee or somewhere. And he goes, I always eliminate the shallow bite first, because if I do find a shallow bite, I usually know it's going to be probably a quality type of fish, especially in the middle of the summer. The only caveat to that is something that Ben brought up. And for the listeners, you're like, yeah, well, you know what? I've been fishing Jordan Lake. I've been fishing Falls Lake. I've been fishing wherever. I can't get a shallow water bite. Well, the drought probably has a lot to do with that, right? So that is something we're seeing abnormality with the drought here in central North Carolina, I don't know how to break down those bodies of water that well. I haven't even been on them really. And that's why I think a lot of people are going immediately deep water, because that's where most of the fish are congregated. But if we were in a perfect situation, we had normal levels of water and stuff like that. Ben, what are your thoughts on, looking at a lake from a tournament perspective, not like the Roanoke River? Like, how do you go about breaking that down? Mikey talked about wind direction, wind-driven current, shade lines and stuff like that. What else would you add to that?
So one of the key things this time of year, really in the summertime, when I first get on the body of water, I turn up the sensitivity on my graph and identify if there is a thermocline and what depth. And the main reason for that is it eliminates a lot of water. Like if you're out on Jordan Lake or Harris and the thermocline is 12 or 15 feet, then that can eliminate a lot of water. And there can be fish below it, and some fish can go for a certain amount of time, but they usually don't live there just because that water's not mixing. There's not enough oxygen for them down there.
Right.
And that just continues to get greater as the season goes along. So that helps eliminate a lot of the depths you need to look at. But I think, early in the season when that thermocline first starts up, you got a lot more post-spawn fish. They're a lot more active. They seem to roam around out there more along the thermocline. But as the season goes along, and although the thermocline can shift, I do feel like a bass will move up a little bit shallower, as you were talking about. And I think part of that's because as the summer goes along, the water up top just gets warmer and warmer, and so it floats. And although it may not be as much of a difference, to create like a thermocline or a second thermocline, which can happen on some bodies of water. Because that water doesn't mix as much, that shallower you get, the more oxygen it's going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, bass love eating bugs and everything else too. So
right.
I just feels like as the summer goes along, you can start keying on some shallower spots or mid-depth range again. But that's one of the first things I look at, and just to help eliminate a lot of water. And then current, shade lines, all that stuff plays a role. Water inflow too. If you got a lot of water inflow, that's just naturally stirring the water up, bugs and coming in. So, in the summertime, you can still catch fish out in the backs of pockets or in the little ditches back there, and do really well when most guys are out on the main lake.
Yeah.
Some of those places may be harder to find, where they may be a 1 or 2 fish spot, but they're not beat up as bad because most people aren't targeting them.
Right. One of the things I'll tell to the audience, then we'll transition over to your tournaments, Mikey, because this kind of bleeds into what you were talking about with like current and lack of current, right? Pay attention to the weather this time of year, right? Like here in central North Carolina, we're getting ready to get not enough, but we're getting ready to get a downpour over the next couple of days. We're going to get a significant amount of rain, right? So what immediately I know that I'm going to go to my deep dive app the next time I go fishing, if it's on a body of water that just got done getting a bunch of rain, and I'm going to go to that inflow feature on the app, and I'm going to turn it up and go to where the majority of the inflow is coming into the lake. And those are probably going to be the areas I start targeting first. Because like Ben said, you got watershed, you got runoff pushing into the water, either whether or not it's high ground pushing in, or you got a stream inflow, whatever, it's going to push in there. And the highest protein diet is going to be in the shallow waters for these bass during that time. The bluegill are a higher protein diet. Crawfish are, bugs and stuff probably not so much, but they're going to leave. A lot of fish will not abandon, but they'll leave a lot of those threadfin shad that are 2 to 3 inches. They're tired of chasing them, and they're going to move up there. They're going to feed in the shallows and stuff like that. So I'm going to use that feature, and I'm going to go target those areas. The other thing, especially if you have a good mapping product this time of year, you have a lot of fish that are off on the flats offshore, right? They'll be in the 10 to 12 foot range, or relative to where you're fishing those flats where they can move laterally and chase bait fish. They're not really relating to that vertical contour lines like you would see like in the wintertime and stuff. But one of the things to pay attention to on your map though is your creek channels, right? So if you have a flat that butts up with a creek channel that goes to a pocket, that is like textbook what you want to be looking for this time of year, especially if you're getting a bunch of rain in the afternoons and you're trying to target shallow fish. Because what will happen is they'll be on those shallow flats, they'll slide out into that creek channel, and they'll follow it to where majority of that inflow is coming into those creek arms. It may not be in the very back of a creek. It could be at the highest point, high ground on that creek, and the water's coming in, and they're only able to move like 50 feet off of a flat into a creek channel and go feed. But I get so dialed into mapping this time of year because it tells the story. Like, you just think of a natural highway that a bass is going to follow. And Rick Salvatore, who is bassing through, man, he does a really great job with his audience talking about like the natural highways that a bass will follow. Bait fish are following it and all that stuff. So make sure you guys pay attention to your mapping products outside of visually looking around, right? Like visually seeing docks, visually seeing shade lines, visually seeing that current that Mikey's about to talk about here in a minute. Like, look at your mapping product and be like, okay, what's the highest probability of success if I'm going to target fish after a strong rain or it's windy today? Where are they going to go to, right? Especially if you don't want to go offshore all day long. Offshore is a whole different animal, but you're still going to use your contour lines. And there also is shade offshore, y'all. So if you're fishing stump fields or you're fishing brush piles, when that sun hits at a certain angle on a brush pile or a stump, there's a shade line on the backside of it created, right? So positioning is everything when you're targeting fish offshore as well. But I want to move into that July, August current that you were talking about, Mikey, specifically with the river that you were fishing. You just got done winning 2 one-day individual tournaments right down there on in the Albemarle Sound area. But you fished differently each day, and I kind of want you to talk to the audience about that. Talk them through like day one, what was going on, and what was so different on day 2, and the adjustments that you made to have success.
So I'm gonna back up even further.
Back up.
Practice.
Back it up.
Because I had 3 different colored buzzbaits tied on. So I had a black bladed one, I had a silver one, and a gold one. It just depends on what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not want the black, which my biggest fish up there, it was almost 8 pounds. It came off a black one.
Mm-hmm.
And black works really good, but it was not working. And that was within the first 200 yards. Not a bite, not a bite, not a bite. Changed up to silver. Not a bite, not a bite, not a bite. Changed up to gold. 2-3 casts later, boom. I said, okay. Went back through the same area and caught 2 more fish. That's it. I'm coming back here. Came back Saturday and just locked that buzzbait in my hand. A gold blade. It's a 911. It ticks the head, but it also has a clacker, so it's ultra loud. And those fish, because of the current and because of the watercolor, it was kind of dingy. They want that loud. They want loud. You got to think they're mainly looking at crawdads. They eat crawdads all the time. So when they hear the crawdad fall in the water, just like when you're flipping, you want a heavy weight. You make that loud splash. Not like a lake. You want to be nice and subtle.
Mm-hmm.
No, here you want to be as loud as you possibly can.
Yeah.
They want to hear it. And usually within the first foot of the bank, they're going to crush it.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely they'll come all the way out. And the current was moving pretty decent. So I just fished all day with that buzzbait and caught fish non-stop. And I think I had almost 19 pounds. Big fish was 6. And that's the only fish that hit away from the bank. The reason was the bank has about a 1 to 2 foot ledge, and then it dropped off into 15, 20 foot. There's a bunch of log jams right there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what happened was it came off that bank and came over those logs, and she come shooting out.
Mm-hmm.
And when she hit it right next to the boat, it just
yeah. Well, yeah.
I was giggling like a little schoolgirl, man. I was like, woo!
So that day though, you talked about current, like it was ripping, right?
It wasn't ripping, but it was moving. It was
moving
pretty good. Ripping in there is rough.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to fish in there. Like you catch a fish in the current when the current's really ripping out there, you have to hook that fish, get it away from all the wood and stuff. You got to get out into the current and put that spot lock on. Because if you don't, you come off that trolling motor, you'll be half a mile down the river
and smashing into some other log
stuff and getting on. It's fun, but it's hair raising.
So you after day 1, you had 19 pounds. You said that was an individual day tournament. You won that one. What happened day 2?
Day 2, I went in there. Right away within the first 100 yards, I think I had one blow up on a buzzbait. And I started looking at the current, and the current was not flowing. It was not flowing like it was day 2. I started thinking about it. And I was like, well, I'm going to start flipping. And I'm like, you know what? Let me throw a horny toad, because they'll bite a horny toad. And as soon as I started flipping that horny toad, it started coming out. But they were coming out slashing at it or getting it. And the ones that were slashing at it, there's something, I told you about this already. It was kind of funny. I come over a log. It got hung up on the log. And I popped it. When I popped it, that slack's on the line. So I'm reeling up the slack, and I watched that thing kind of flutter down, and a fish come out and grabbed it. So it kind of turned me on something. I'm like, wait a minute. So I started chucking the horny toad like normal. But when I came over a log, I just let it drop, and I caught fish it like a fluke. And just watching that thing, how erratic it is nuts. It's better than a fluke, I think.
Yeah.
Because you don't know which way it's going to go. It'll go backwards sometimes, and the fish were just hammering it. In between that, when I was flipping, they would pick it up, and I tried 4 different baits, but every single bait, they would just pick it up and chew on it, and you'd lift up, and either they let it go or they just start swimming little circles with it. And like, you had to let them eat it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was painful.
So what color horny toad were you throwing? White?
White.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you're throwing a different color compared to your buzzbait the day prior, a gold blade with a white horny toad on it. You were throwing a straight white horny toad.
Yep.
You noticed a lack of current in the river, which made you go a little bit more subtle in your approach to catching the fish and stuff. And you ended up catching 17 pounds that day?
14 pounds. Almost
14 pounds?
But big fish was only like 4.5.
Okay. So the quality of fish went down, but you still caught a bunch of numbers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing too. Like, the last fish I caught, coal fish, was actually at 4.5. And I just messed. There was a brush pile that I caught 2 off of, missed 2, came back to it. I say brush pile, but it was like a couple logs, and there's some vines hanging down, and it was a pain in the butt trying to get that horny toad in there. But I happened to look behind me, and there's a log going with the current and a log going across the current, and there was actually wind current. And I was like, wait a minute, there's wind current now. I was like, let me pick up the buzzbait. I fired that buzzbait over there twice, and that 4.5 just jumped all over it. But then I couldn't get a buzzbait bite after that.
It doesn't matter. That was the winning fish.
I'm happy.
So Mikey, so Seth, thanks for joining us again after making.
Yeah, sorry, I had to step out.
You're good. You're good. This is a perfect segue. So, well, congrats, Mikey, on smoking the competition both days. But Mikey's talking about current, and he's talking about in a river system. Before you, while you were away, we talked about shallow water fishing in the middle of July and August, right? Fishing for those less pressured fish, maybe some of the bigger fish in the lake, especially after good rain and stuff, looking for those strong inflows coming in where they're feeding on gills and bugs and lizards and everything else that's going on. But Mikey's talking about current, and I think that's a topic that's really not talked about a lot. And I know how important it is on a lot of bodies of water in July and August, specifically when that thermocline is at its strongest and they need the maximum amount of oxygen they can get to survive and feed and stuff like that. You're a big reservoir fisherman, right? You fish rivers and stuff too, but you're really good on places like Carr Lake, Bugs Island, whatever, Gaston. Obviously, you just got done fishing the Potomac River. That was current, tidal driven, stuff like that. For the lakes, for the audience, so Mike, you just talked about current in the river systems, but for the lakes, and I'll talk about what we know, what I noticed the other day when we were out fishing. But talk about your approach to current-driven situations in some of our reservoirs. What's most important for the audience to know?
So, July and August, mainly current is king. Doesn't matter where you're at. Rivers, lakes, current is king. If you have current, you're going to have shallow fish, and you're going to have shallow feeding fish. And sometimes more in August than in July, because there's still a big contingent of fish out deep. You'll have a lot of fish shallow in August because of the current, right? And you'll have a lot of fish because of the bait as well. You'll be at the tail end of that last brim spawn. The big bait balls are starting to move back shallow again because of the thermocline. They need to get into the best oxygenated water as well. And current just adds a recipe for, lack of a better word, disaster for shallow fishermen, right? It's just a way to go in there and catch really big fish shallow in those months. And places to look for me would be obviously in the backs of pockets, where there's some type of inflow if you have that, right? Whether it's a small feeder creek, runoff from rains, things like that. And then if there is a river system that feeds that lake, those are places that I'm going to first. Now, not necessarily a river, but a bigger stream that will create some type of current flow. Now, what we have around here for a couple of the lakes that you mentioned, they use a dam system to generate electricity. So that in itself creates current, right? And you can go to the far end of a creek or a pocket, and if there's dock posts, stumps, laydowns, anything that will break that current, those fish are going to sit there and feed on whatever comes and goes as that current comes in and goes back out, depending on whether they're backflowing or actually pulling current to generate electricity.
Yeah. I mean, it's no secret. Like, you guys can jump on Deep Dive and check out if you're on a lake where they're pulling. This isn't a deep dive episode, by the way, but it fits well with, like, you know, July, August fishing, you know, and especially like targeting shallow water fish. Like I was talking about before, like if you're fun fishing and you just want to catch numbers, you can pretty much go offshore.
I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now? You got me? Oh no. Can you hear me?
Can't hear.
Do you got me now?
I can't hear you.
Oh. Hang on a minute. But anyways, I'm going to keep talking while I think Seth can't hear us because Ben stepped away for a minute. But
Here's a question.
yeah.
You're saying shallow. What's shallow?
Right. Shallow is also relative.
A lot of people. I mean, 6 foot to me and up, that's shallow.
Yeah.
But you start talking down to 12, that's a little bit like mid-range.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pause it just for a second. We'll be right back, folks. Mikey, you just asked a great question to the or to myself, like what is considered shallow water, right? Like, actually, that's a very great question. It's also relative to how each individual defines shallow water, right? Like, go ahead, Mikey.
Seth, what's shallow to you?
So you mean in July and August?
Yeah, shallow, general.
1.5 foot or less.
Oh wow,
Dang.
that's shallow.
Because here's the thing, you have a lot of fish that are cruising up there in nothing, in shade lines.
Oh, true.
And if that's all they got, that's all they got. So 1.5 foot, I mean, to me, I saw fish at Gaston last week in 6 inches of water in shade lines.
Yeah.
And it was 88 degrees, 89 degrees. And there's only going to be more fish go that direction as the hotter it gets, or the amount of rain that we have, and it circulates through a system.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, relative to fisheries too.
It is.
Because when you get out to the rivers, and the pros saw it, these fish get shallow.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, like Seth just said, 1.5 foot to a foot.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they get back there so far, you're like, how is that fish back there? There's like 6 inches of water.
Yeah. And dude, I know this conversation between all of us doesn't really, you know, I hate to say it, but I don't think it really speaks to the guys that fish a lot of like the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nighters, right? Like that's like clearly those guys that go out there, they know exactly where they're going. They know exactly what brush pile they're going to, what ledge they're going to, right? But we're talking to the masses here. Like if you're trying to go out, for instance, and just practice for like just practice to practice or practice for a tournament, whatever, and you're not on a body of water that you fish every single day of the week, like Jordan Lake or Sharon Harris or Falls Lake or anything around here in the Piedmont, whatever. If you're not going to your local lake and you're not going shallow this time of year, you could be hurting yourself, right? There could be some of the best quality fish that have the best protein diets up there in the shallow waters, and you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And that's one of the challenges that I've had over the years, man, like as I've gotten more and more in touch with like the offshore fishing, and offshore is also relative to Mikey. That's like saying shallow, but like where I'm not casting at the bank. We'll just put it to you that way. When we're going off and we're looking for groups of fish and stuff, like it's hard for me not to just go and use my mapping product and go offshore and look for those high percentage areas to catch numbers of fish. That has hurt me because some of the best quality fish are still living shallow this time of year. They do it in January too. I've seen it happen. Right. So, but for you guys, like Mikey, you talked about using a buzzbait and stuff, which is a great bait this time of year to go up there in the shallows and cover water, especially if you're on a place like the Roanoke River with a lot of timber, or you're on a grass fishery and stuff. Seth, you talked about using a walking bait. Are you going to use a walking bait in a foot of like really, really shallow as well?
Yeah, if there's shad in the back of a pocket, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if you notice that they're really primarily feeding on brim? What's your go-to bait for that?
Frog or a mock patroller, plopper style bait. I mean, those two things, it just depends, you know. If you're targeting single fish on an isolated piece of cover in the back of a pocket, then I might tend to lean more towards the frog. But if you're targeting wolfpack fish that are on brim or bait, then I'm going to go to something that's moving, because then it becomes no different than these guys that are forward-facing sonar, and it's a competition. And the biggest one's going to go after the most aggressive bait, and I want something that draws the biggest fish out of the wolfpack. And to me, that's going to be a plopper style bait.
Mm-hmm. So my last question on this, and I'll turn it over to Ben if he's got anything. Then I got some other random questions for you two. What is, so Mikey, for you, for the audience, if you can give them one piece of advice for fishing in the dog days of summer, it doesn't even have to be fishing related. It could be anything related. What is your best piece of advice to give people for the dog days of summer?
Drink lots of water.
I knew he was going to say.
Dude, you know, over the years, and eat. I mean, guys don't eat.
Yeah.
Me and Nick are horrible with eating. When we fish team tournaments, we kind of have this unwritten rule that
if you don't get five
fish in the boat,
you punish yourself.
Yes, we do, because you should be throwing. But if you don't eat and drink, it tears you up. It's 100 degrees out there, and you just start doing stupid crap.
Yeah, I mean, you become
casting right.
Yep,
it's just worthless.
It doesn't only affect your physical ability; it also affects your mental capacity too. When you're out there all whacked out because you're dehydrated and you ain't peed in like 4 hours and stuff like
orange.
that.
Bright orange. That's
a great piece of advice from Mikey, who's been fishing for a very, very long time. Once you retire from the Army, like 1976. I'm joking. I know when Mikey retired. We actually crossed paths and didn't even know it in Afghanistan one time. So it's pretty cool. Seth, what is your biggest piece of advice for fishing in the month of July, August, dog days of summer for those listening?
Go until you can't go anymore.
Know when to quit?
No, I mean as far back in a place as you can go.
Okay.
Go until your boat cannot float anymore, and you'd be surprised what's laying back there in the shade.
Yeah.
I promise you will.
Yeah.
That's one thing that, you know, growing up where I grew up, I fished that way all the time. But down here, I got sucked into being offshore and big groups of fish. And to be honest with you, what put me back shallow was I could not stand the boat traffic around here. It is absolutely horrific. So I just said, all right, I'm going back to the bank and I'll have to figure it out. And I did. And I just started going back because you don't have skiers in those places. You don't have jet skiers.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you start realizing, well, maybe those fish are back there for the same reason. And it's cooler. But don't be afraid to go as far back as you possibly can go and find shade, and you'll be surprised at what you see swimming around.
So folks, Seth is speaking directly to me. And I'm taking it to heart. No, but let me tell you all a little secret. If you got a fishery that you're like, man, they killed all the grass in here, whatever, where's the first place that's usually going to start growing? It's going to start growing in the shallowest water in the back of a creek most of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the times. And when you start going back in these creeks and these little cuts and stuff like that, and getting away from the jet skiers and the wakeboarders and the lake lice, as Pete likes to call them, you start noticing things. You start visually seeing things with your eyes, and you're like, hey, there's something there that I'm not going to tell the biologist about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real.
But but it's a great way to get away from the traffic. It's a great way to get yourself some shade, target some resident fish and stuff like that too. Ben, what's your piece of advice for the folks besides drink water and go back?
If you're just out fishing to fish, have a good time, you're not focusing on a tournament and, focusing on finding fish during that tournament window, go in the afternoon to evening.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't translate because if I've spent years, getting off from work from the Army and going running up to Jordan in the evening in the summertime to get ready for a tournament and stuff. And even those but the fishing is different. I mean, it's always different on the weekend and it's different in the, in the morning in the feeds. But I feel like, especially a lot of lakes around here, and this even applies to the places I fished in Missouri. When as the day goes on, those fish will kind of migrate out, kind of get lazy, lay there. And so if you go late afternoon, you can kind of get on that bite. But I feel like it turns on more because I have a feeling a lot of the fish in the summertime feed at night. Maybe they feed at night more. They move up shallow. And so you're starting to get that transition. They're trying to get hungrier. And then they'll move up. And you can get that late evening topwater bite. A lot of times I've had more success, evening topwater bite than I have a lot of times in the morning in the summertime. Maybe that's just me, but that's just some success I have. And
I mean,
especially if it's full moon, like if it's like bright moon, they are feeding at night, if you go out in the morning, like they've gorged themselves all night probably.
Yeah.
So you can turn around. So
dude,
and it doesn't apply for tournament fishing because it's jacked me up before because the only time you can practice is in the afternoon and night, and then they're not there in the morning. So
night fishing is so fun. Night bass fishing, and I'll tell you, if you never fished at night, it's scary, but depending on where you're at. But if you're on a place like Lake Norman, Lake Gaston, stuff like that, there's certain areas of the lake that you should look at to target. I'm not going to give you the juice. Okay, check for the lit docks. Go check for the lit docks, right? Because those bass are going to be up there feeding by those docks with lights on them. But if you're on a place like Sharon Harris or Jordan, you used to hear the tales of the old guys back in the day with the black jitterbugs, black buzzbaits, and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you right now, fish still eat offshore at nighttime. I have caught monster fish on big black shaky head worms in 15 foot of water offshore, one after the other. And so it's a great time to get out there. And dude, you have no boat traffic. The only thing you get to see on a lot of our lakes around here is those guys with them boats, with them generators and those big old lights, bow fishing for carp, dude. Like that's pretty cool to watch those guys do that. But I want to transition here. So we talked about all the things you like to do in the dog days of summer. Mikey, I'm gonna go to Seth this time. Seth, what baits do you not even have in your boat during the dog days of summer? Like give us a couple baits you're like, I'm not even gonna have it in the boat.
I usually don't have any type of lipless in the boat in the summertime.
That's a good one.
Mikey's thinking.
That's a good question.
Depending on the fishery, most of the time I get an idea of what I want to do, but I don't usually carry much lipless. And then I scale down my shallow water tackle a lot. Only because I tend to fish bigger baits in the summer, big jigs, full size game hogs, rage hogs, things like that. So I take out like small beavers and things like that. I want a lot of action. So that'd be about it. Probably just the lipless. I mean, I still have square bills in there because I do fish isolated targets with square bills. Maybe ones I don't carry a bunch is like big thumping spinner baits. I take those out too, just because usually in the summertime, like Ben was saying earlier, our lakes start to get a little bit lower. We don't get as much rainfall, and we've been dealing with that since April this year. So dirty water's not much of an issue in the summer, so I take that out. But other than that, that's probably the two that I don't carry. Everything else, but there again, Trey, you've seen my tackle selection. It's not crazy. I got rage bugs and I have, some handful of topwater, some frogs and some bladed jigs. So that's about what I have all year round anyways.
That's true. I do have to tell the audience that, like, if there was the most streamlined tackle setup that I've ever seen, It's definitely not mine. It's definitely not Mikey. It's definitely not Pete. It's definitely Ben has all his organic stuff in there, but it's definitely not Ben because he carries a lot of tackle too. It's definitely not Mike Johns, who didn't join us tonight because he got our storm that came through. Seth, you definitely have the most streamlined tackle setup I've ever seen out of any competitive angler. So
it's about efficiency. That's the only reason why I do
100%.
it. Like if I was a recreational angler and that's all I did, I'd carry everything. But it's about efficiency. And so I know what I use, and that's what I carry. Yep, and a lot of confidence. But yeah, it's
big one
for me. I don't carry a bunch. Like, and if guys were to get in my boat, I don't carry full size 3700s anymore. I carry small. I don't know what they are. They're half
from
size.
Harbor Freight.
Yeah, they're small, and I carry a bunch of those because it has what I need, and that's it.
Yep, 100%. Mikey, I know you took 4 minutes to think about this. You better come and don't use the Roanoke River as an answer.
No,
what do you not have in your boat this time of year?
I don't fish. Well, we fish rivers.
Yeah.
We don't fish. If I go to a lake in the summer, it's fun fishing.
Okay.
So everything in my boat's for river.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of crankbaits and stuff in there.
Okay.
I'm not a crankbait fisherman. So, I mean, I have some, but I don't.
Yeah.
Throw it a lot. But yeah, I don't have traps in there. That ain't till like spring and fall for me. I got a little bit of everything in there, man.
Yeah.
It's like we went to New
Are you throwing a wacky worm this time of year?
You know that I hate throwing that stupid thing.
I'm with you, bro.
I do hate saying it, but I am more of a power. I'd rather power fish.
Yeah.
Throw a buzzbait, throw a horny toad.
Yeah.
Even my damn shaky head when I'm throwing it, I'm moving that thing.
Yeah.
It's unless we know it's a slow.
Yeah.
At buckhorn or something.
Yeah.
But I'm moving.
Yeah.
I don't like sitting still. That's why I don't like this forward facing. I hate it. I hate it. I don't see the sense of sitting on some fish for an hour and you don't get a bite. I just wasted an hour where I can go shallow and go catch some fish.
Yeah.
Touche, Mikey, because that was touche, buddy.
You know, I mean, I know how to use it. I've used it to my advantage, but I can't do sit out in schools.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
Yeah.
Especially now that everybody's got it. These fish are not stupid.
No, they're not.
Trey and I experienced that this weekend. These fish are as smart as they've ever been, and they're only going to get smarter, and it's stupid to waste your time out there.
But you know what was cool about this weekend fishing that tournament? They ate, we got them on a couple urchin stuff. I think we caught like 2 or 3 on an urchin, but they didn't do anything for us. But all of our bigger fish came off like traditional baits, paddle tail swim baits, the OneCast Fishing 5-inch stinger I was talking about. Seth was throwing a little bit bigger swim bait and drop shots.
Well, we call it good one on top,
in top water, right? Like straight up, dude. So we got Mikey, who doesn't really throw a whole lot of like non-moving baits. If there is, he's power fishing a non-moving or You got Seth talking about spinner baits and what was the other thing you said?
Traps.
Yeah. Ben, what's not in your box in the dog days of summer?
Seth, you said traps to begin with, but I fish enough grass. I always have traps.
Mm-hmm.
And,
and I get it. It's just like I'm with Mikey on it. It's a spring and a fall bait for me.
Yeah.
Blade baits.
Ooh, there you go.
Blade baits in the boat.
Blade bait, like a steel shad.
Probably like shad wraps, so like those little cold water things. A lot of times I probably take my wiggle wart rock crawler crankbait box out. I usually tend to focus on other crankbaits in the summertime. So, but like to be honest, like my tackle selection isn't as small as Seth's, but it's definitely I know it's smaller than everyone else's. Than the rest of you guys. I just, I got all my organic stuff and some other standard stuff. I actually need to expand out and try and do more things again. But like I don't carry that much stuff because like a lot of my plastics and stuff and like jerk baits are a great cold water bait. A lot of people quit throwing them, but like I can love a jerk bait in the summertime. I've had some phenomenal days on it.
That's actually mine that I was going to say.
Especially with scope.
I I don't. I always. So first of all, I carry way too much stuff. Everybody knows that, and I have everything tied on all the time. But there is one bait that usually in the dog days of summer I just do not throw, and that is a jerk bait. The only time I've really, and it's a scope only deal for me, is if I'm trying to target an individual or group of fish that is suspended like immediately underneath the surface. And so far this year, the urchin style bait has taken over that because I've tried to focus on getting dialed in on that bait. But yeah, jerk bait. And yeah, same as you guys, lipless crankbaits, dude. Like I'm just not I've heard of guys doing really, really well in schools of fish offshore throwing those. But if we're talking about like targeting more relative shallow water areas and stuff like that, a lipless crankbait is just not going to be. I actually don't have that tied on. That's one thing I do not have tied on right now. I got a wacky worm though, Mikey.
I do.
Welcome.
You can throw it and work it like a spoon.
You can, and you can throw really, really, really big lipless crankbaits offshore too, and do really well with those, mimicking big gizzards.
Baits.
Yeah, glide baits and stuff. Is it? Yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, you know, the dog days of summer, man. Like it's, you know, a lot of people talk about. Like I've seen it on, you know, social media forums where guys are going out there and blasting numbers, and then I've also seen guys that are, you know, traditional shallow water anglers that are having a really, really hard time this time of year. Because when you're fishing this time of year in the dog days of summer, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, most likely you're not going to go out there and set the world on fire with catching 100 plus fish in the shallow water. But so you may be going for 7 to 9 bites a day, maybe 5 bites a day, depending on what you're doing, or depending on where you're at, not where you came from, but depending on where you're at, you may not set the world on fire in the shallow water situation, but you might catch some of the right fish. So for those of you guys that are, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, maybe some of your best numbers come in the shallows this time of year. I don't know.
No, that's usually better than average fish for me. I go up there and I'm 5 to 7, 8 bites a day. But it's going to be quality. It's not going to be, you know, pound and a halfers. It's going to be 3+s because it's either wolf packs or it's individual fish on isolated cover.
Right. And that's why I think, you know, for those anglers out there that are getting deterred from, you know, fishing in shallows this time of year, like, look, man, like you're fishing for resident fish or fish that just slid up there after a good rain or something like that, or fish that are, you know, hanging out on the backside of a dock because it's got a shade line. And, you know, if you guys go watch camera footage of, there's tons of videos out there, but one of the best ones that I saw, I think it was 4 years ago, Swindle, Ben's like, Swindle did a video and he was skipping docks. That was his whole video was talking about skipping docks, and they put some cameras underneath the docks. And dude, those docks were absolutely loaded with bass in the middle of the dog days of summer. I mean, loaded with them. And guess what they were sitting right next to? Bluegills. They're all just sitting there next to each other, just hanging out. Like 1 minute I'm your friend, 1 minute I'm your friend of me, dude, and I'm going to try to eat you. You know what I mean? So like, if you think that there's not groups of fish up there shallow in the dog days of summer, you're wrong. Getting them to bite is the art of fishing shallow and targeting those fish during the dog days of summer, because you may throw a 1/2 ounce OneCast Fishing snagless jig underneath the dock. One of the 18 fish may eat it, and then you're not. And look, this is also something that you need to know about shallow water fish too. You will pull those fish away from that structure or cover when you're fishing for them shallow. They don't just all stay there. It's the same concept as when you're offshore and you're looking at them on forward-facing sonar and you catch one and about 50 of them come back to the boat. Well, a lot of fish do that stuff in the shallows too. So that shallow piece of cover that you fished, and Seth and Mikey and Ben, you can talk about that too. Like you may have to revisit that 45 minutes to an hour later again to catch another one off that one. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Yeah, it depends. But yeah,
Depends.
for sure. Yeah, it depends. Like I said, a lot of times if you're around something like a brim bed and there's wolf packs, then yeah, absolutely, I'm going back to that area. But if I'm running to the very back end of a place and I'm fishing one stump, one lay down, one brush top,
that's a one fish deal. Yeah.
So it's all situational, but absolutely, there are going to be places on your local bodies of water that are going to hold multiple fish that you need to revisit, especially because think about it. Everybody probably has a place that they'll go and they always catch a fish off something, right? Oh, I always catch a fish off this dock. Well, it's not the same fish.
Right.
So that means there's a group of fish there. There's a group of fish that lives there. So that's why you need to revisit that multiple times in a day, because it's a group of fish usually.
Yep. I got one more question before we end here. I know we've been going over a little over an hour, but I want to ask this question because you hear about it a lot of times in the summertime, but in general, right? And that's talking about rotation, getting in a bad rotation. All right. So, and anybody can answer this. It can be Seth or Mikey or Ben. How do you know how to get into a good rotation versus a bad rotation? Like what are some of the things that you're looking for? Seth, you can go ahead and answer.
So for me, if I'm going to start where I feel like there's a big population of fish in an area, so it might be the back end of the creek. Like I might go into a creek and I might get 4 or 5 bites off of different pieces of cover. So I'm going to start there because that's their highest percentage of getting a bite. Then from there, my rotation is going to be based on what part of the lake I'm in and then how much shade I have throughout the day. Right? So I'm going to start on the area that's going to get the sunlight first, that I get the most bites in. That's going to have the shortest amount of shade. So I'm going to start in there because your percentage of getting a bite or higher quality goes up. From there, I just run. So, for instance, I might have a creek I know that I can fish down a stretch that has shade until 10:30. Well, I'm not going to run that to my second or third stop. I'm going to run that later in the day, and I know that I still have a good bite window in that area because of the shade line that it creates till 10 or 10:30. That's how I do it. Some guys just kind of run all over the place. This time of year when I'm running shade and I'm running the backs of places, I always go to the areas that get the sunlight the first and work my way to the places that have the shade the longest.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. You're go ahead,
That
Ben.
makes me, I should send Braden an email from Deep Dive. They need to have a shade feature. You know, like
100%.
I want royalties off of that then.
because that obviously that changes where you're at in the country, where the sunrise, sunset location.
It's no different than in the spring of the year when you want to fish north-facing banks, right? That water heats up the fastest. So it's just in the summertime, I want to find places that hold shade the longest.
And that's I mean, it depends but obviously it's usually the east side and
correct.
And probably
it'll be east to south. Yep.
Yeah, southeast side.
Well, and that's where you know, folks, you got to, and we'll go to Mikey here in a second, but you got to keep your eyes open. This is one thing that forward-facing sonars kind of messed with me a little bit, and it's my fault. Is paying attention to your surroundings instead of getting hyper focused in on your screen. Like, look, I got it, man. Like, I love using the technology, but a lot of times you miss those little things that Seth and Ben were talking about. You know, even a shade or a east facing bank it's going to be vastly different. I know areas on Falls Lake that get like shade lines until 10:30, like you're talking about, and they're east facing banks, right? And it has to do with the terrain, the surrounding terrain, right? If you're going to fish a mountain reservoir in western North Carolina, or you're going to fish the Yadkin chain, which has a lot of rolling hills and stuff like that, everything sets up so differently. But if you're going to fish a place like out in the desert or something like that, you got to look at the mountain terrain. You got to look at the way the sun's hitting that stuff. So like that is a great point for the audience to know about, like rotations. And you're talking about chasing the sun or chasing away from the sun is what you're talking about. And that makes a lot of sense, dude.
Now, well, here's for you, Trey. Well, go ahead, Seth.
Well, I'm saying here's the thing. Once I've run all my shade stuff, then guess where I go?
Sun.
I go right back to where I started, because then those fish are going to position themselves on the cover the way they need to with the shade line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same deal.
Yep. So you got shade down the entire bank line, and then you have isolated shade.
Correct.
Which is going to position the fish the exact same way that you would run offshore stuff, positioning fish on brush piles, on ledges, on stumps, with the way that the sun's hitting them and creating shade lines. And so whatever, for you offshore guys, and I love offshore fishing, you can treat the bank or treat the shallows the exact same way.
Yep.
Right? Current, shade lines, structure, cover, targets of opportunity, right? Bait. Mikey.
So I don't know if you've noticed this, Seth, about Kerr, but what I've seen, schooling fish, 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock in the sun on points, you will start seeing schooling fish.
Yep.
And you might see some in the morning, but I see the majority later in the day. And you may not see them schooling, like blowing up like crazy until 12 o'clock.
Right.
Right.
Did you say bugs?
Huh?
Did you say
Yeah, bugs. Yeah.
Bugs does it. Tillery does it.
Well, Tillery makes sense because bugs does some have herring in it, so that kind of makes sense with the herring because the herring love the sun.
That's right.
Yeah.
They move up. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's the thing
does.
too. Like Tillery and Kerr, it drives me nuts for topwater.
Because you want to run shade and they're in the sun.
When it's bright sunny, oh, it's perfect.
It's great topwater.
But when it's cloudy,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
Sucks. It's awful.
Yeah.
People
Yep.
don't realize that. It's
Yep.
awful in those places when it's cloudy.
It's backwards.
Yep. Well, this is interesting too. So Seth and I fished a tournament out on Mayo Lake. I'll just say it, right? Everybody knows that lake's a clear water reservoir. Clear water, that's a whole nother podcast in itself about bait selection and movement and stuff like that. But one of the things for those of y'all that are listening, fishing clear water reservoirs, try to find some of the more stained water in your reservoir because there is some stained water and we ran across it. You would be out in the middle of clear water and the bait would be suspended on a bright bluebird sky day, right? But you would slide 25, 50, 100 feet off to this area, and this water has a little bit more stain to it based on the runoff, and the bait's all pushed towards the bottom, right? Why that is? Maybe because of whatever, right? They can't see as well, so they're trying to get to the closest amount of cover to keep themselves protected, so the fish are down there. So the way we were catching them 200 feet this way was vastly different than the way we were catching them 200 feet that way, right? And it was night and day. It was like you're fishing two different lakes, dude. I'm telling you right now. So that's another thing during the dog days of summer is water clarity, man. Like pay attention to that water clarity because your bait may be relating, like you were talking about on bugs and Tillery in that clear water to certain stuff. But then you go up into a place like Grassy Creek at bugs and it's a little bit more stained water and your bait's relating differently. So your bite is going to be different. Your bait selection is going to be different. That's why I carry the whole tackle box. Well, that's not why, because I'm too lazy to take it out of the boat. That's the real reason. But still, like your bait's going to be relating differently in different parts of the lake. So your bait selection could be different. And it's crazy to me, dude. A lot of our lakes that you were talking about, like Tillery and Bugs and Gaston and stuff, they remind me so much of northern fisheries up in Michigan and Wisconsin and stuff like that, where you can get away with throwing topwater all day long in the brightest bluebird sky conditions. And because they're sight feeders and they want it that way. You know what I mean? So anyways, Ben, what was you going to say?
I was going to ask you, like when you're fishing offshore, that rotation is a little bit different. I mean, you talk about how shade plays a little bit of role, but that shade is much less of a role than fishing the bank.
Uh-huh.
So how do you know when you're in a good or bad rotation for like fishing offshore brush piles, ledges? Because that's to me that's much more of a timing deal.
Yeah.
Than if you're targeting maybe isolated fish under a dock or stump, a lay down in the shade.
So, I mean, for me, offshore fishing, like getting into a good rotation has to do with really two factors, and that's bait and that's current, right? So like, Mikey and Seth talked about current. Current exists. There's underwater current seams that you can't see. You have no idea what the current is doing underneath the water. You only see what's going on in the surface, which is why your contour lines are so important on your map, right? So you're looking for those saddles, you're looking for those humps, you're looking for those creek channels, you're looking for the generation schedule on a lake, which, deep dive, you can pull up if they're generating on a lake or not, how much water they're pulling and stuff like that. And you can start targeting those high percentage areas. I noticed it the other day when we were out on Gaston. My wife and I were out there. Seth was out there testing some new luge rods. And the bite was phenomenal. The bite was absolutely phenomenal on those offshore places, those high percentage offshore places that I talked about, brush piles, stump fields, creek channel swings, all those things because they were drawing water. As soon as that water slacked off, I mean, as soon as it slacked off, that bite, I don't know about you. I think I called you, Seth. That bite died. It absolutely died. And that's when it was like, okay, either go shallow or go target individual brush piles, because now those fish need to hold on something or move somewhere so that they can get in a position to continue to ambush bait. The bait was just being brought to them. So I look for current if they're drawing water, or if there's a natural current like a river or something like that. And then I look for, what was the other thing I said? Current and something else. Bait was the other thing, right? I'm literally, so I use my side scan a ton this time of year. And then much like the shade lines that Seth and Mikey were talking about, like I will also chase the sun this time of year. Sometimes the sun does a really good job offshore activating the bite. And it may not, it activates the bite in the shallow because of the shade lines, but it activates the bite offshore, and maybe because it's shade lines, but it really fires them up. So I feel like, a lot of guys are like, oh, there's that dead period between like 10 and 12 offshore where they're really not feeding that well. They are feeding. You just have to go throw some different bait selections at them. They may not be eating a deep plug. So to answer your question, I will go and find the maximum amount of bait in the lake, whether or not it's on the north end, south end, east end, west end, and then find out what position they are in the lake. That's why I like fishing the lakes around here. I don't like that, Ben, and Seth really keyed me onto that, is because you can't really pattern our lakes as well in the central North Carolina region as you can going up to like Gaston and Kerr, because it's more spot driven. Like they're always going to be on that spot, right? So I'll look for the maximum amount of bait. I'll look for the kind of bait that they're feeding on, whether or not it's gizzards or threadfin or whatever. And then I'll look at, what was the other thing I said? Bait and whatever?
You just said
Current, golly. And the current. I don't know why I keep messing that up. And then I will literally run. That's a practice thing, right? So like I won't be able to do it like right off the rip. So it'll be like, hey, am I targeting the fish that are in 8 to 10 foot of water at the beginning of the day, and then I'm moving out deeper later on the day as the underwater current is more prominent out there? And so it's like going shallow to deep to deep to deeper, and then following that thermocline like you talked about. And really, Seth talked about this to me before we had a tournament on Gaston. Is like, hey man, pick a zone. You got to pick a zone of the lake, right? And that's where quality, they're going to be fish biting all over the lake most likely, but you got to zone yourself into whatever section of the lake you're getting the most quality bites in, right? And that truly was something that I never really realized, because our reservoirs here, they're too small to really pick a good zone. In my opinion, they're too small to pick a good zone. You need like 30,000+ acres to really hone in on a good zone of a lake.
I mean, even Jordan, you can run from Pose to Farrington and north of that in like 15 minutes.
Exactly.
That's not even.
That's a whole zone on a big lake.
That's a whole zone, right? I can go fish one laydown in Stinking Creek, and I can run all the way up to Bush Creek, fish another laydown, and then you say, well, the pattern's laydowns. Well, no shit. It's 14,000 acres. Like I can go fish laydowns everywhere.
You can stay in Grassy Creek. That's like fishing Grassy Creek from the back 100%. To the front.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
But offshore rotation, I think offshore rotation is pretty tough. I really do. I think it's a very tough deal. And that's also relative to the time of year too, because I got my teeth kicked in at Eufaula offshore when I was fishing shallow, and I should have been fishing offshore. And what a lot of those guys dialed in was the offshore rotation was because of the immediate post spawn that was going on, and fish were constantly coming to them. That's the other thing about offshore fishing for folks out there during this time of year. And Seth talked about it a little bit too. You could be fishing at the end of July offshore, and then all of a sudden those fish are gone, right? They've moved because now things are changing, and in August is coming upon us, and bait's starting to migrate potentially. So you got to follow the bait fish, and you could find yourself fishing behind fish in the dog days of summer where you think they should be. I can tell you right now, and this goes for the audience listening from the central North Carolina region, our thermoclines on Jordan Lake and Sharon Harris have changed. They're not the same as they were before. They're shallower because we're in a drought. So now there's less oxygen in the lakes right now. So a lot of the stuff you were fishing before in 15, 18 foot of water, you're not fishing that anymore because the thermocline is higher in the water column. So you can't fish those same brush piles as you used to be able to before. So, Mikey, go ahead.
Yeah, let's hit on that real quick. Thermocline. Seth, do you see a lot of thermocline up at Gaston? Kerr?
Not usually because the water's moving.
Current.
Kerr, yes. You'll see it occur more than you will Gaston, because sometimes they won't, the water won't move as much, especially if the systems are stable, meaning like Kerr is, or Gaston's at a good level where they don't have to push too much through to generate electricity downstream. But at Gaston, it's hard to find because there's so much water movement in the place. Now, I will see it at Bugs, like this time of year, it's probably 35 footish. And then it'll get less and less as the summer goes on. But right now, they're still pretty deep. I mean, I know a lot of guys are still catching fish that 35-foot zone, which tells me that there's still a pretty good depth of thermocline there.
I mean, that's a great question, Mikey. I mean,
it's like yak and chain.
Yeah.
I've never seen a thermocline artillery baiting
because it's always running.
Moving.
That's something, Ben, to go into your point on that one's like, you may not even have to fish offshore, or you may not even understand the rotation offshore if you don't have a thermocline, or you don't, that water's constantly moving. I think you still can dial it in though offshore with the constant moving water. You're really looking for targets at that point. I think you're looking for those offshore ledges, those brush piles, stump fields, and stuff like that. And I think it's much like shallow water fishing. You just follow shade lines underwater. You follow bait fish population, and that's also a thing where if you're not getting bit, you need to pull the trolling motor up and move. Because offshore fish, there's two things with offshore fishing that really I haven't really truly figured out yet, unless it's on one of our lakes here. There's a zone, a window where they're going to actively feed. And I think that takes years of experience on bodies of water to truly figure out when they're the most active. Some guys are better at it than I am when it comes to figuring it out within a 3-day window of practice. But it's like, I can go sit on a spot for 6 hours and have confidence that I'm going to be able to catch fish on Sharon Harris in an 1.5 to 2 hour window. What's up, Seth?
I'm not sitting anywhere for 6 hours.
Thank you.
Unless I'm at the house.
Dude,
unless I'm catching fish every 30 to 45 minutes.
Dude, the first club tournament I ever fished, I love it, man. I won it. I sat in the same spot for 6.5 hours with a Minn Kota Maxim trolling motor, keeping it in the same position, throwing the same Strike King 5XD until they activated, and I busted them, right? Like, I can do that offshore. Right. That's something that I think is you either really know it or you get darn lucky. Right. But I can do that. I can sit in an area all day long. I've done it on several of our lakes. I don't care, because if you have the confidence that the quality of fish is there and they're going to bite at some point, you just got to figure out how to make them bite. Then you're good. Right. And I've done that on places like Mayo before, where it was all current driven, and I just had to wait for the bait fish to come by, and they activated them. Right. So, but I don't know, man. I think that's a hard question to answer, and maybe we'll get like a real purebred offshore fisherman on here that fishes offshore 100% of the time. I don't know. You fish offshore a lot, Ben. What do you think the answer to that is?
I mean, that's something I haven't quite figured out. To get in that good rotation, like as you're talking about, like they get in these feeding windows, and it's the same if their fish are at brush piles, or because if you roll up and they're kind of on that feeding window, and now it's a little bit easier with live scope because you can see the bait fish moving around and fish moving around. But if they're not doing that, I mean, you could soak a shaky head or throw a weedless net or in like some down there, and you might pick up one or two, but it's going to be very painful. But like if you're brush file fishing, like you need to rotate because there's usually not as many fish on them.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy, like brush file fishing, to get all, your rotation get all messed up because they all don't hit the same window at the same time. It's not like
Right.
there's a 2-hour window that all brush piles are firing. And so
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of luck involved. I think you have to rely on practice for that.
Yeah.
And then take what you learned in practice and apply it to the conditions in your tournament.
I mean, look what Cliff Prince did last year. Was it last year he got his first Elite Series victory, or the year before last on Wheeler Lake in Decatur, Alabama? He sat on day 4 in the same spot, power pulled down all day long, and made the same exact cast, or kind of had a zone with a chatterbait and a big old worm. And he sat there all day long and fished that offshore on the Decatur Flats, because he knew that fish were coming to him, and at a certain point they were going to activate in that eelgrass and they were going to bite. You can burn yourself doing that, but a lot of the guys have success doing that. But I just don't think, outside of live scope, that if we remove that from the equation, because that really gives you the signs like you don't have to figure it out. Unless you have years of experience under your belt, or you just know, I don't know how you know, that to me is like either straight luck or years of experience on a body of water.
I think that's a lot. And like the same thing applies if you're fishing points or ledges, right? That throughout the different day, those bait fish will move up and those bass will move up to feed, to corral them on those points and ledges, and then drop back, maybe suspend off and stuff. Obviously, we know, back in the day, they said you can't catch a suspending fish. Well, we know that's not true. So like you can still target those fish when they're not actively up there feeding, and it's just going to get less. I think it's something too, you got to look at your body of water. Like Jordan Lake, they pull water, but they usually don't pull that much. But they still go through windows where they pull more than others. But in that body of water, you have a river section where there's always water coming in, and there's always more current down there on the southern end of the lake, consistently, because the haw's running in. And if they're not pulling water, some that's going to like backfill in. But like if you're up in the mid lake or up, past 64 Bridge, like that current can get a lot more slack, because one, it has to go through the bridges there, right?
Bridges, yeah.
And it just has to go a long way to go, and there's not as much inflow coming in on that side compared to the Haw River. So, like, there's times that when the water, when there seems to be less flow, or the water's more slack, like being down the river system. But then if it changes, you can run to different parts of the lake. Yeah. And that's just, but see, that takes a lot of time of practice or experience on a particular body of water to kind of notice those things.
We just need Seth and Mikey to give us all their brush piles on Jordan Lake. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
I ain't got none.
Sometimes it don't matter, because
Work.
the last club tournament I fished at Jordan Lake, I took big fish of a 6'9". It was big fish for the entire year for the club.
Wow.
And it was out of a brush pile. And it was like, I was fishing a lot of the ledges and the brush piles and stump up by Farrington. But then I went down to a particular one little brush pile that I've had a lot of luck on. Which wasn't far. I pointed it out to you at the lake cleanup day where it was at. It's just like a two-net bank. It's off there. And I caught that 6'9" out of there. And then that was probably about like 9 or 10 o'clock. That was my first fish. And then I ran like 50 different brush piles. Every brush pile I pretty much had marked. Like I didn't get another bite.
Yeah.
And so like bad rotation, different stuff like that. It just,
bad
the deal. But like I caught that big one. I was like, I'm going to commit to it, because my thought process was, there's fish on brush piles. Like I've got to run into a couple more here and there. And of course it didn't happen for me, but that just makes it very hard with brush pile fishing like that. Cause you can have 120 mark, but if you're in a bad rotation or something, like you can get burned easy too.
Well, and then, you asked a question, we asked it about shallow water fishing and offshore fishing. You can get into a bad rotation because you're fishing behind somebody. Right. That's another thing too. If you're fishing a tournament and you got 100+ people on the water, the chances of you fishing behind somebody are probably pretty good. Right.
And that was like that day. That was my other factor. There was like a couple, maybe it was a PBC out there.
Yeah. Seth was probably out there fishing it. Yeah.
This was a few years ago. There was a couple other tournaments. And so like every single point and every single like you're in a traditional spot like you would go
Had somebody on it.
Had somebody on it. And at least with brush piles, I was like, well, I've got a lot marked that, yeah, some people know where they're at, but like most people don't have all these marked and can run exactly to all of them. But hey, again, I got burned pretty much that day, except for catching the big fish. So I guess it was worth something, but
100%.
But that was my thought process. And that was like a June or July tournament too. That was, yeah.
I suck on that.
I think everybody gets scared about fishing behind people.
Oh yeah.
And you don't.
Yeah.
Don't get scared, dude. I fished behind so many people
and catch them.
Dude, I waited one day for a point on Gaston. 7 different boats. 7 boats. Community hole. I fired up, finally got over there because I was going to go fish it because I knew exactly how I was going to fish it. And I threw a shaky head up there. No, I threw a drop shot up there and I catch like a 3.5 pound spot. It broke off in the boat. I was like, all right.
Boat flipped it.
Yeah. No, I didn't boat flip it. When I got it in the boat, something broke off, whatever. But I picked up a shaky head and fired it all the way out on the point. And as I did that, a boat comes flying up next to me. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I thought you were leaving. I was like, whatever. I catch a 4.5. And I fished for another 10 minutes and he tried to come up again. I was like, you know what? You can have it.
Oh, man.
I'm going.
Well, that's what you get in the dog days of summer. Seth talks about that all the time. You know, like you may go out and practice and you may find 120 different spots that you want to fish, and 119 of them on tournament day are going to have somebody on them, right? And that's the nature of the beast. And you know what, Mikey, I agree with you. Don't be afraid to fish behind people, and don't be afraid to fish behind yourself. Right. I do that all the time. I know Seth does it. We all do it. I'll turn the trolling motor around, especially if I'm going down a bank line of docks or something like that. And I'll make those same flips. I might change up my bait selection and give them something different to look at. But you fired a drop shot out there, turn around, fired a shaky head out there. And that's when your wives ask you, why do you have 892 fishing rods? Well, that's the reason why, because I got to throw that bait that looks a little bit different on my second cast after I catch a fish.
I mean, you're right with that. Two of the club tournaments I won, it was a half mile stretch. It was kind of, one was the Chowan, a creek in the Chowan, and one was on McIntosh.
Yep.
And I literally, all day, I went down both sides of the bank in a half mile stretch, and I would just loop or, pick it apart. One was top water, one was a Texas rig trick worm. Just making those loops around, and I probably each day, one was a 2-day tournament. I probably fished the same.
Didn't even fire the big motor up
like 5 or 6 times, And
Seth's like, I can't do that. I got to pull that trolling motor, Bo.
Not necessarily, but yeah, I get it. I mean, but that goes back to finding the zone. You found the zone. Right. Had a bunch of
fish. Found the zone. Yep.
And I found both those zones. The Chowan one I never caught the big one in the tournament, but it was enough to win the tournament. But I caught like a 5. 4 or 5 in practice, and then in McIntosh, I caught a couple good ones a little bit farther from what I actually fished. I did fish where, like in McIntosh, where the stretch that I caught those fish, but I never had anything. But like I started before, and when your first and third casts are like 5 and 6 pounders, it's like,
oh yeah, kind of hard not to fish that area. Well, hey folks, we've been going for about an hour and a half here. I want to ask one more question to both of these guys. Seth, you're getting ready. Well, first, thank you guys for joining us this afternoon, talking about shallow water fishing offshore, what you're looking for, bait selections, what you don't have in your boat. This just gives me the opportunity to study my competition. No, I'm just kidding. Seth, you're getting ready to head off to the St. Lawrence River for the MLF Toyota Series event. What are you looking forward to, man?
Cooler weather.
You still need to drink water, Mikey said.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I really, for the people who have never been, this is my PSA to that. You need to take one trip to the North Country, because I'm going to tell you right now, it's some of the most incredible fishing and fisheries that you'll ever see in your life. Big largemouth, big smallmouth, crystal clear water, and they bite. It's fun, and the weather's nice. The only thing that sucks is the drive up and the drive back. Other than that, those places are phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, I love it up there. I went up last year and really fell in love with it. So I'm really just looking forward to getting back up there, man. You know, catching big smallmouth and 1.5 foot of water is always fun. So that's what I'm basically looking forward to.
And Seth doesn't need a flogger, for those who are wondering, because he's 872 feet tall, so he can just see straight down.
You don't need a stepping stool.
No, man, we wish you luck going up there. And you had a great amount of success from the Potomac River. And, you know, hopefully you do well in this tournament. And then the last one, it qualifies you for the championship, and you go knock that out of the park. So, but make sure you hang out with us just for a second. Mikey, you just won back-to-back tournaments with your club. What's your next derby coming up?
Chowan River.
Chowan River. I don't think you're going to be throwing that buzzbait.
I bet you I will. It's a frog.
It's a frog. Yeah.
I'm going to actually try a couple different things. Going to be up there for 2 days pre-fishing. I'm going to start looking out offshore, meaning no deeper than 8-9 foot.
Oh, I got you. I'll send you some pins.
Okay.
I got you.
Are you putting in
Different
Edenton or a Hosky?
They can trailer, right?
No, not in this one.
Oh, really?
Oh, a Hosky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we used to.
I'll make the run. Trust me. I'm not scared.
Mikey's not scared to put that hot foot down.
Backwater creeks, they'll be loaded up there.
Oh, they're going to be biting.
Well, you better have an urchin style bait.
I ain't got no confidence in it yet.
Ben's like, you don't need an urchin bait.
No, you don't. Seth, have you used it yet?
Oh yeah, he's used
Oh
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You got confidence in it yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I'm telling
The
you
first
right
fish
now.
I caught on it, Mikey, was 7.5 at Gaston.
That'll put some confidence on you right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've caught anything bigger than like 5 pounds on it, which that I'm not being ungrateful. I've caught my biggest fish like throwing big swim baits and stuff this year and big jigs, but I'm telling you right now, like it's a bait that, you know, it'll taper off. It'll continue to get bit forever. It's like the whack, but the drawing power of that bait is like a glide bait, man. It's crazy to me, right? They're just really aggressive towards it. But one of the things for the audience, if you're seeing a lot of fish following, like there's a great backup bait to throw, especially if they're not feeding up and they're feeding down. Throw a big swim bait, throw a big jig. They'll feed on that stuff still too. It's not just the urchin. It's the world of the urchin, but I'm telling you right now, they eat a lot of other stuff. Like you talked about it with the buzzbait. Seth talked about it. We talked about it with the OneCast Fishing Stinger. So yeah, man. So you're going to go up, crush smallmouth. You're going to go crush some big old river bass. Ben, you're finishing up the boat project, right?
Yeah, after since we'll get all this rain the next 2 or 3 days.
Yep.
Then hopefully this weekend or early next week, I'll get my my dash put on and just then hooking up the graphs and should be good to go.
Awesome, man. Well, we're getting ready to gear up here. I just got all my safety equipment for the final Bassmaster Open of the year up at Lake Erie. Going to be heading up, staying overnight at Pete's dad's house. He's going to cook us some steaks and drink some cold beers, and then head on up to Lake Erie for the final event for the year. And then all of us are going to hopefully be at the Special Operations Bass Angler Charity Tournament Annual Mark McCowan in November. Seth Ellis won the 2025 SOBA event at Lake Norman. So we're going to have to go up there and lay some havoc on it.
I don't get to fish this year.
Well,
I'm tournament director, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I am fishing it.
I'm boat 15.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm boat number 1 this year. So it's pretty awesome. But yeah, man,
winner
looking
should
forward
be
to that.
boat number 1.
Huh?
I think the winner from last year should be boat number 1.
You can be boat number 1. I'll be boat number 1.5.
I'm just kidding. I don't
You
care.
don't want to be boat number 1.
No.
You like to be the last boat in every tournament.
I
I'm
actually
telling
like
you.
that too.
Yeah. Look, guys, if you're trying to sign up for the SOBA event at Lake Norman, it's always the Friday before Veterans Day. You can go to the Special Operations Bass Angler Facebook page. You can go to the website, but the Facebook page where they do the DMs is really where the sign up is at. And our good buddy Nick Kincaid manages that. So just shoot a message on the SOBA Facebook page saying, "Hey, I want to enter into this tournament," and that'll be the boat number. So it's based off who enters first. That's where your boat number is, right?
Yep.
It's a great event. Make sure you come out and support it. Seth, you got the Strike King Road to the Opens Championship on Table Rock in September. Ben and I will be at the MPFL Military Classic on Douglas Lake in September as well. So looking forward to that. We got a lot more fishing coming ahead, guys. If you don't have anything, I'm going to close this out. You guys good?
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure you guys stay online. Don't log off just yet. Thanks, everyone, for joining us on this week's episode of the OneCast with our good buddies Seth Ellis and Mikey Nadeau. Ben, thanks for hopping on here. Thanks for OneCast Fishing and all of our other sponsors. And thank you for helping us continue growing a culture of anglers, helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Yeah. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.